Welcome back. If you ain't had a chance, please write this and then 5 lines in between, so up and down. So room to write at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words on top of each other, and then the verb shows. Make sure you have that in your notebook now, please. All right. So, what is it we're doing, Mr. Surface? Here's what we're doing. We are using this noun verb, and we're looking at quotes from what we're reading, and we're finding nouns that we could use to talk about it, nouns that can refer back to it. And the practice of boiling down a quotation into a noun is a skill worth developing, and it won't go away. So, y'all, let's try it together. First, we have this beautiful quote right here. The example, the square of 72, 72 times 72 equals 5,184. Squares are always symmetrical shapes in my mind, which makes them especially beautiful to me. Multiplying the same number 3 times over is, so we highlight maybe a little part of that sticks out, which is squares are always symmetrical shapes in my mind, which makes them especially beautiful to me, right? Well, first we can find out, all right, what nouns are already in there for us to use. I see squares. I see shapes. I see mind. I see those three nouns. Now, here are some Here are some nouns that I see that I could use where I turn one of the words in there into a noun, right? So I see symmetrical. That's an adjective, but I could write symmetry, right? I see beautiful, which is an adjective, but I could write beauty, right? So you can take the adjectives and turn them into nouns. All right. I'm going to make it a beautiful pink there. Okay. One last thing you can do is sort of to refer back to the quotation, right? So this is actually, you can always do this one quotation, this quotation. It's not, it's only use an emergency if your brain is feeling especially done in that day. This quotation. You can also think about what he's generally saying, right? Squares are always symmetrical shapes in my mind, which makes them especially beautiful to me, right? So you could say this way of thinking, or his sense of beauty. You could also write aesthetic, the noun aesthetic. All right. So those are all the nouns that you could plug in for number one, right? You could write this square or these squares. You'd have to change it a little bit, but this shape, this mind, or you could write this symmetry, this beauty, right? Or you could write for number one, this quotation, this way of thinking, this aesthetic shows. You don't have to finish it yet. You simply just have to find a noun to go in there. When you're done, you'll have 5 nouns. Take a moment, and I'd like you to choose which noun you're going to choose for number one. All right, what are you going to use for number one? Take a moment. All right. Hopefully you chose a good one. Now, why don't you get up out your seat, go around the room, and take care of the other 5. Do so now. All right. Let's go over these together real quick. Multiplying the same number 3 times over is called cubing or raising to the third power. The cube or third power of 51 is equivalent to 51 times 51 times 51 equals 132,651. All right. Well, I'm going to get this middle portion here, highlight that. All right. And I'm going to list some of my nouns. Whoopsie daisy. I'm going to put multiplying the same. Oh, Mr. Surface, you silly goose. I'm going to put number. I'm going to put power. So there are some of my nouns that are already listed for me. Now I'm going to try some that I take the adjective or a verb and I turn it into a noun. Let's try the brown. Multiplying, there's a verb. I'm going to make it multiplication. Boy, am I a sneak. Multiplication. The same number 3 times over is called cubing. I'm going to put cube. Raising to the third power. All right. And I'm also just going to find some stuff that generally goes with it, I would call this math or computation, right? All of those definitely fit the bill. So that I could use any of those for number 2. Take a moment, make sure you got it. Next, I see each result of the power of multiplication as a distinctive visual pattern in my head. As the sums in their results grow, the mental shapes and colors I experience become increasingly more complex. As the sums grow, they become more complex. I wish I had chosen a different color, but I can still see. All right. So, what would work there? Well, these are the nouns I see right away. I see sums. I see results. I see shapes, colors, and experience. Use it as a verb, but it works just as nicely as a noun, right? And these are some of the nouns I can derive from some of the adjectives and verbs in there. As the sums and their results grow, so I can put growth. So the mental shapes and colors I experience become increasingly more complex. Complexity, right? Any of those could work. Number 4. I see 37's fifth power, 37 to the fifth, as 69,343,957 as a large circle composed of smaller circles running clockwise from the top around. Oh, let's use a different color. All that sentence right there, right? So I can put the nouns that I see. 37. Oops. 37. Circle. Circles. And that'll work, right? How could I turn other words into nouns? I see, so I could put this sight, this visual, these clockwise. I'm just going to go with those for now. Any of those for number 4. And last but never least, number 5. When I divide one number by another in my head, I see a spiral rotating downwards in larger and larger loops, which seem to warp and curve. Ooh, I love it. All right, I'm going to highlight that first part there. All right, and I'm going to turn it into a noun. This, and I see number, spiral, loops. I'm going to put some of the verbs and turn those into nouns. Warps, curves, rotations, divisions, right? All of those would be certainly fair to do. So take a moment and you can choose any of those lovely nouns. And nice job today.